Morgan Thomas Show. Brought to you by Black's Tire Inc.
What's up, everyone? It's the Morgan Thomas Show. I'm your host and producer, Morgan Thomas. Joining me is my good friend, co-host, Big Al, Alan Adams, over to my left. And then at the bottom is Houston Burnett, our resident college football expert. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. We got a jam-packed show for you tonight. I know you're excited. There's a lot to talk about. With that game that happened Saturday. Some are saying one of the best games they've ever watched in college football history. I don't know if I can really mark up a Clemson loss as one of the best games I've ever watched, but it was definitely a really, really good contest between two really good teams. Well, I'll say one really good team and one really injured team, but we'll talk about that a little bit more. But thank you so much for joining, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube. We really appreciate it. If you're just tuning in for the first time, every Monday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we talk about all things college football and Clemson football as well, and then give you, at the end of our show, our picks against the spread. But I'm very excited for it. Al, tell them what we got coming on segment number 2.
Segment number 2. So, look, as Morgan was talking about, Clemson lost a heartbreaker to Notre Dame in double overtime on Saturday, 47-40. Look, we're going to break that game down later, and the show, and we're going to talk about that and give it some of our thoughts as to kind of what happened. Maybe a play of the game, something like that. Kind of get in the chat and tell us your play of the game. Can Clemson claw back and meet the Irish for a potential rematch on December 19th for the ACC championship? Get in the chat. Tell us what you think.
And then we also have Houston down at the bottom. I'm going to tell you a little bit about segment number 3.
So segment 3, Tigers aren't playing this upcoming weekend. Unfortunate, but have no fear that there's more college football, and we've still got the picks for this weekend. So tune in. All ACC games, also a few other games that we've selected. Hopefully the entire SEC doesn't come down with COVID, so maybe some of these picks stand. But we're still picking this weekend. We'll go over that in segment 3.
It's hard enough for us to pick these early release spreads that come out on Monday. We're doing fairly well for a spread that, just gets released on Monday. But we also have to deal with quarterbacks getting taken out of the game, quarterbacks getting COVID, the entire team getting COVID. So there's a lot at stake before we even know it, and a lot of in flux. Sometimes things happen Thursday or Friday. We don't even know. But for our show, we're going to tell you we're going to do some early spread picks, and that's what we do. We do ACC teams and also our games of the week, and that comes from Houston this week. Houston's got some good ones, and I'm excited to talk about them. We've got Texas A&M on the list, Florida, Alabama, Washington, got some Pac-12 in there. You know what? Pac-12 started last week, and we didn't even include them, I don't think. So good to see the Pac-12 on the list. But before we get into the show, again, I wanted to say thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming in on Facebook or YouTube tonight. Make sure you share it with a friend. So there's a few things that you do to help us, and that is to like the video and then share it with a friend, or as we found out last week, tag a friend. It was really good. So if you have a friend you'd like to invite tonight, tag them in the comments if you're over on Facebook, and we really appreciate that there. But let me tell you about Black's Tire Inc. before we get too farther into the show, and that is our primary show sponsor, and that's blackstirinc.net, 864-647-9292, family owned and operated since 1971. If you need new tires, brakes, alignments, or tire repair, check out Black's Tire Inc., located 1415 East Main Street, Westminster, South Carolina. Give them a call, again, 864-647-9292. Go past the stadium, into Seneca, through Seneca, into Westminster. It's right there on the right. Go tell Dale and Preston that Alan, Morgan, and Houston sent you there, and they will get you hooked up with all of your tire needs. We really appreciate those guys out there. They've been supporting us really for the past 2 years, so thank you so much, Dale and Preston. If you're watching tonight, we really appreciate it. And again, thank you so much to fans out there for supporting us yet again. Even though Clemson is off, there's going to be a lot of shows out there also going to take an off week. We will not be doing that. We are going to tell you what we think about last week, what we think about the Clemson Notre Dame game, and give you our reaction, and then also tell you about some of the big games coming up this weekend, because as long as there's college football to be played, there's something to be talked about, or something to be discussed. Let me get into segment number 1. Let's just get started, guys. You ready to get started?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right, so we're going to talk about a look back at the games of last week from our picks against the spread. Alan, myself, and Houston, I finished 5-6. Allen and Houston finished 6-5. So congratulations, guys, for finishing above 500. You guys are creeping up on me, just a few games away from taking me from the top spot for the show. So I'm getting a little bit nervous here because this is yet another week that I've had a losing record at the end of Saturday. Only 5-6, so only one game worse. But, like I said, you're just chipping away. I can feel you guys in my rear view. And so it's making me a little nervous. I just want to let you know I'm full transparency here. But let's go through some of those games. We'll hold the Clemson Notre Dame game, if you don't mind. We'll hold that one for segment number 2. But Liberty is a winner for myself and Allen. Houston decided to go astray a little bit, go for Virginia Tech, which is perfectly reasonable. Minus 14.5. Liberty actually went to Blacksburg. This is key here because there's going to be an orange and purple team that's going to Blacksburg as well. But Liberty University went to Blacksburg and won and didn't even need the points. So congratulations there. Next up, we've got the Tar Heels at Duke. Man, Houston, myself, and Allen, we all hammered home that one. Boy, was that ever a hammer home. How do you feel taking the 10.5 spread and then just seeing Duke, when you see Duke just get destroyed, what's going through your mind on that one?
Hey, North Carolina's covered a lot for me this season. They've, when their offense is on, man, it's really hard to stop them. And they actually, just exploded against Duke, which Duke has been pretty awful all year. But for some reason, that game can be close. The North Carolina Duke game's been close in years past. There's been some crazy things that happen. I think Duke had the lateral, was it a lateral play on the last kickoff or whatever a couple years back? It's a fun game at times. But yeah, North Carolina was definitely a superior team on Saturday.
Yeah, I feel bad for Chase Bryce, but at the same time, there's a reason I picked against you. UNC, really good team. Don't know if they've got the horses to stay within the ACC championship race, but they're still a really good team.
Yeah, they're still kind of struggling in a sense. They're not the team that I thought was going to be the second best team out there. I don't think UNC could beat Notre Dame. I don't even know if they even playing Notre Dame. I don't think they even do. But UNC doesn't look like, it looks like really the front runners are Clemson and Notre Dame right now. Next one up is Boston College at Syracuse. Houston did a lone wolf winner on this one. Allen and I went with Boston College. We were deceived by the success of Jeff Hafley there. Minus 14 probably was a little bit too much again at Syracuse. If you look back at that, maybe just being a little bit too confident. Al, I don't know. What do you think? I think maybe we were a little too confident. You never can tell with Cuse. Are they dead? Are they not? No, they're not. One week they are. The next week it's hard to say.
Yeah, Syracuse is a terrible team. It wasn't that we were too confident in there. It's just BC didn't play very well. I kept looking back like, what's the score? What's going on? They're not getting any points on the board. Jurkovic is a great quarterback. We saw that firsthand at Clemson. He's been kind of on the money. I expected him to carve up that Syracuse defense. It just didn't happen.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, guys. You gotta just get on the level here and understand the brains of these athletes. That's just kind of how I made that pick.
I love this. It's unfortunate, guys, that I picked the winner. Congratulations again, Houston. I'll give you a little golf clap there. By the way, golf clap. There's some golf about to be happening. Here it is. Mid-November. There's about to be some golf happening. But then the next game up, Pittsburgh at Florida State. I
don't even want to talk about it.
This was, we only had, out of the 11 games, we only had 2 that were majority losers, like hammer home losers, and Florida State was one of them. Minus 2.5, Pittsburgh went in there and beat them in Tallahassee, and I just spent tonight with a big Florida State fan, and it's Florida State's kind of in that level of South Carolina. They don't really know, the fan base, like they're really, really loyal, but they just don't know where their organization lies right now. So it's hard to cheer for them because, again, it's a lot like Syracuse. You don't cheer for them, they win the game. You do cheer for them, and they get blown out. So Pittsburgh ended up winning, but as Allen liked to mention to me while we were watching that game, we really didn't know if Kenny Pickett was going to be back, and he actually ended up playing that game. And a Pittsburgh team with Kenny Pickett is completely different.
Oh yeah, Without a doubt. I would have picked him in a heartbeat if I known Kenny Pickett was playing. I was under the impression the whole week he was not. And again, I talked to you about the game we saw last week with their backup quarterback who cannot throw a forward pass to save his life. That's why I went with FSU. I don't have any confidence in FSU either, but I had no choice in that situation. Had Kenny Pickett, been on the roster as a starter for that weekend, that was a no doubt pick Pittsburgh. So it would have been a good 7-4 week for me. But hey, that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes, right?
Houston, you got any feelings about that one?
Yeah, so I mean, I want to comment more on it. First off, you can't compare anyone to South Carolina right now, and I have some thoughts on that later. But also, Florida State is still just struggling along. They don't have the main thing is they don't have an identity. It's almost like they picked up where they left off with Willie Taggart, and can they improve? Can Mike Norvell be the guy? Sure, but this is just an equal amount of inconsistency as it was in the prior regime, and you're just getting more of the same with this guy.
Yeah, I mean, they seem to have found a quarterback that's better than Blackman, but it's still got some kinks to work out for sure. Then Louisville at Virginia was postponed due to COVID, so that one is actually on the list for this week. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but I've got them again -3 this week. I believe they were -3 last week, so still on the board, same spread, but going to be played this week. Kind of interesting that it was postponed and immediately played. I guess they had a open game or open date both available for them. Going to be interesting to see how they respond after that. And then another one. This is our only other majority loser. Miami, -10, goes to Raleigh and does not win by 10. Only wins by, 3? 44-41. And kind of didn't seem like, and sometimes it seemed like they might have even lost. They were going, may have lost that game or could have been a potential loser there. Miami is in a position where they have to be very careful. Right now, they are on the cusp of having a shot. Guys, having a shot. Alan, I know he told us earlier on in the season that this would be a team that he felt like was the coastal winner. Well, they're not. They only have one loss. Correct me if I'm wrong here. That's Clemson. So Clemson wins the tiebreaker in that case. I know a lot of people on Facebook were panicking. Like, Clemson's going to have to hope that Miami loses. I don't think that's the way it works, right? So Miami lost to Clemson, so Clemson wins the tiebreaker there. So no worries there if you're a fan that's concerned about them. But it still is concerning because if Clemson loses a second game, Miami continues the way they are. You don't want to lose a second game at all when you're Clemson because you're still in the driver's seat. You still have the ability to make it to the ACC championship game. And Miami is one of those teams that, like I said, it depends on when they show up, but it looks like they've made it so far. What did you think about that game being so close but so high scoring?
Yeah, that was a little bit crazy. I thought Miami's defense was going to be able to give NC State some trouble, especially with the backup quarterback. That simply was not the case. I didn't get to watch a whole lot of the game, but I did have it up on my phone, kind of checking the score every now and then. I'm like, goodness gracious, NC State is winning this game. How is this even possible? Because Miami's looked pretty good at times for sure. They didn't have the letdown we thought they might have after the Clemson game. They've just been a pretty solid team all year. Their defense has kept them in games. Derek King's doing his thing, and I really thought they were going to kind of take it to NC State, who's kind of been a bit up and down, but it just didn't happen this weekend.
Yeah, to me, I watched that game from start to finish. NC State seemed like the team that momentum-wise should have won that game and just couldn't get it done. Miami has a game like this going forward. They, you're talking about Clemson earlier. They're not going to have to worry about much. I feel like Miami is kind of – I haven't looked at their injuries or anything like that, but one of those things where they had to pull one out at the very end, and I don't know if they could survive doing that against a team. I don't have their schedule up. I know they may have like a team like Virginia Tech or somebody down the road. So this game exposed a little bit more about how many problems they have on defense. And NC State, I feel like, should have won that game.
Well, that's interesting because that was one of the games that I didn't pick the Wolfpack. They've been helping me out get above 500 all year. I decided to jump off the NC State bandwagon. I think it was after, Virginia? I decided to jump off the bandwagon, and here they are coming back and keeping it within the spread again. So that was our ACC games. Let us know in the comments what you think about how we did last week. I think that, I didn't have, normally I do like just the ACC winners or our record in the ACC, because as Alan likes to say, we'd probably be in the 70s or 80% range if it wasn't for the ACC. I mean, come on, there's a lot of people that come out here, and I've watched a couple of shows on YouTube this week, just actually today, that were, just talking about, man, I had an 8-1 record this weekend. And I'm like, I know you're not picking Liberty and Virginia Tech. I mean, I know you're not picking BC and Cuse 8-1 here. I don't know. I just I find it kind of hard to believe there, but I don't know what games they're picking. Maybe they're picking some of these top 5 games of the week that Alan picked last week. So let's talk about those top 5 games of the week. We've got Texas A&M minus 9.5 at South Carolina. They, I believe they covered. Did they not?
That was a beautiful thing to watch. Of course, Morgan, you were with us. We had this that one on the secondary TV down below the big screen where we had the Clemson game. Houston would have known. He was invited, but he shafted us. Decided to stay at home. But look, hey, I get it. Bad company. I understand how it goes. Hey, had you been at our house, maybe Clemson would have won the game. So congrats to you, Houston.
Whoa! Accusation!
Shots fired. Shots fired. Now, Morgan, I don't know if you want me to get thoughts in on this game yet, like my full array of thoughts. I will say this. It's really, really bad to only have 150 total yards of offense, which is what South Carolina had. 50 yards rushing, 100 yards passing, 100 yards. Your starting quarterback, Colin Hill, threw for 66 yards and 2 picks. Not a good night for the Gamecocks. Not a good night.
I think you keep him in the game, right? When you're performing like that, you keep that guy in the game. You don't try like maybe other quarterbacks that could have a better. You just keep him in the game, right?
It's such a shame that Clemson doesn't get to play South Carolina this year. It's such a shame.
Well, let's take a look at some the Big Ten. They started play, and we've got Michigan. This is the second week for the Big Ten. Al, I hate to bring this one up for you. You mentioned this. I actually rewatched the show, and Houston called this game by more than 2 touchdowns. He said Indiana will win outright and will win by more than 2 touchdowns. Allen said, I hate it. I hate it with a passion to have to pick Michigan, but I feel like they will rebound, and so I'm going Michigan -3. Allen, you lone wolf loser there, my friend, because myself and Houston went with Indiana, which was a real big head scratcher for me, Al. We had such a euphoric moment watching Indiana beat Penn State. And here you go picking against them when they had the momentum. I told you this. I said that word, momentum. And not only that, Houston called the shot on that game. I got to give him some props there. Al, give us your explanation.
Well, look, it's plain and simple. I said this during the show from what I remember that I hated picking Michigan because I think I said something like Indiana was probably the better team at the time, but Michigan always screws me when they do that, okay? I always pick against them, and they always cover the spread. It's insane. Every year this happens. I think Michigan is this overrated team. I pick against them, and sure enough, they come out and win. It seems like it happens every single season. And I was the one that was on the Indiana train. I was the one that told you they were going to beat Penn State or had a good chance. We picked against them. They covered for us. It was an amazing game. I was pulling for them. But I thought they had won their game for the year. That was their big game, and they'd already won it. I didn't think it was going to happen again against Michigan, and I'm glad it did. Go Hoosiers. I was very happy to be wrong on that pick because I can't stand Michigan, and Jim Harbaugh it's not a team of mine. It's one low on the list. So I was all for a Hoosier win there, even if it cost me the victory.
So I'm not quite ready to say this because there's a lot of football left to be played, but Indiana might be that team of destiny in the Big Ten. You always have this random team, Cinderella, rags to riches. Indiana is on the cusp. Now, they could go to Columbus and get shellacked in 2 weeks. That's why I'm just kind of like, no, we'll see. But if they're able to hang on and make that a game, and it's in the fourth quarter, and they're giving Ohio State's fits, we might be talking about how the Hoosiers might be thinking about the Rose Bowl or something like that. But like I said, allegedly, speculatively, I'm not ready to say that, but it's a possibility.
Well, Indiana, if you look at this, Joe Milton, 344 yards, 3 touchdowns. Ronnie Bell, Michigan receiver, 6 receptions, 149, 1 touchdown. So they led in passing and receiving for that game. And yet, where did they not lead? The turnover battle, which is exactly like what we see with Louisville, what we've seen with other teams in the ACC. You don't win the turnover battle. UNC, even the Tar Heels, even NC State or Wake Forest, if you don't win the turnover battle, it can really, really hurt you. Same thing goes for Clemson, actually. We could actually throw that out there now. But Indiana actually had 2 interceptions off of Joe Milton and ended up winning that game by, 17 points. So congratulations there to Indiana. Next one up was my lone wolf winner, which I'm very proud of because you guys tried to convince me out of this one. But West Virginia lost, but they didn't lose by 6.5 at Texas. Texas ended up, winning the game, which, I felt like West Virginia could keep it closer, but I also was worried because Texas is one of those games that's got Sam Ehlinger. You guys talked about Sam Ehlinger a ton last week, but I never even saw the game. I just saw the results there, and I'm excited about that. And then we've got OK State at Kansas State. Now, you guys tried to convince me of this one. So these were my 2 back-to-back lone wolf picks here. Oklahoma State minus 12.5. What was I thinking? Minus 12.5. I even mentioned this, guys. I even mentioned this as you guys were speaking. Before we finished, I said, you know what? Kansas State is like a poor man's Texas. Kansas State will come and make it close. And sure enough, they did. And I even said on the show, it wouldn't surprise me if Oklahoma State won, but not win by more than 13. And here we go. They won by 2 points. I should have just went with what was coming out of my mouth, guys. I should have went with. Did you guys happen to see that game at all?
I didn't get to catch the game. I kept up with the score, and I was really kind of disappointed Kansas State didn't come out with a W there.
Yeah, about the same with me. I was keeping up with I believe that was the same time slot as the Florida-Georgia game, so I had that on most of the time. So disappointed, but it's the Big 12, kind of like picking the ACC.
And I'm assuming Will Howard, the quarterback for Kansas State, would have been on your list of sexiest players of the week because 143 yards, 1 touchdown passing, 125 yards, 1 touchdown rushing. So the guy was basically doing it all for them and almost brought them within a win, but lost by 2 there. And then the final game of the night, won another one, 3 in a row, lone wolf. I should have went with you guys on this one. I even mentioned this to Alan. Why did I go away from my preseason SEC East winner? Why did I do that? And Alan mentioned on the show, he said, Morgan, I don't know if I would pick them because all of the injuries. I mean, their best defensive player got in a pretty terrible car accident, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. What was I thinking, guys? I don't know this. Florida minus 3.5 at Georgia ends up really basically destroying them. And Alan's going to talk about that. We're going to lead up into one of Alan's questions here. But, I mean, congratulations, guys. You basically destroyed me 2 out of 3 on these lone wolves that I did.
Yeah, that was an interesting game. I actually got to watch most of that game, at least in the beginning, until it became a blowout. Florida was just able to do whatever they wanted, and that Georgia defense was like Clemson's defense, just absolutely decimated with injuries. They had injuries on the defensive front, at defensive tackle. They had injuries at linebacker. They had injuries at safety. I believe they even had an injury at safety during the game. I don't believe they had George Pickens on offense. It was just perfect storm, plain and simple. I would have probably picked Georgia the way they were playing most of the year. Because of Florida's defense, I thought Georgia would have been able to score and then held them on defense. But without all that defense, that's Georgia's MO right now. They play with defense, they win with defense, and they didn't have it the other day.
Yeah, not to mention Stetson Bennett being injured now. So an injury to Stetson Bennett will lead to JT Daniels, something that you never thought you'd hear said in 2020. It was one of these games where also shout out to CBS for replaying a gruesome injury and that touchdown play when they were like, don't show the injury anymore. And they went ahead and showed the injury. Like, dude, somebody's getting chewed out in the camera booth after that. I agree with Alan. Florida dominated, took advantage of a decimated defense. The offense still is not clicking. You can't put Dwayne Mathis or Stetson Bennett in there. You need to put somebody who has an arm in there that can stretch the field. That's why I think JT Daniels is going to play. Otherwise, Georgia's title shots for a playoff game is a shot pretty much. They would need a lot of help, but really just focusing on even getting to a decent bowl game, you need somebody who can stretch the field now.
Yeah, and that's kind of leading into Alan's question. But before we get to Alan's question, let me tell you about Charleston Sports Pub. Charleston Sports Pub of Clemson, downtown Greenville, and 4 other locations. You've got Charleston, of course, Summerville, Mount Pleasant, and James Island. Check them out. Charleston Sports Pub, 359 College Avenue, Clemson, South Carolina. If you're there in the upstate and you're a Clemson fan, go check them out. Look, Clemson legends dine at Charleston Sports Pub. They support our show, and you should support their restaurant. Got great food, great atmosphere, great games, and sometimes you get to see some pretty awesome Clemson players there in the Clemson location. So go check them out as well. And then we also want to tell you about another longtime sponsor, and that is Tiger Sports Shop. We don't just dress for success, we TS for success. If you notice, I'm wearing something a little bit different tonight. I am actually wearing a Columbia polo from the Tiger Sports Shop, but they have that there as well. Anything that you would really want to wear as a Clemson fan, that's going to be at Tiger Sports Shop. So go check them out as well. But Al, tell us your question. What's your question of the week here?
So my question of the week was, does UGA's loss to Florida blow the SEC's chance to get 2 teams in the playoff? All right, so I really wanted to get y'all's take on this. I mean, it's really an interesting question because Georgia was really the team. Georgia was the team from the East that was, had the potential to play Alabama, maybe squeak by them this time. I don't think they would have. I don't think a lot of people thought they would have, but they still had a chance. Okay, their defense, they get a couple turnovers. Who knows what might happen, especially without Waddle. I mean, with Waddle out, I mean that's a huge loss for Alabama, as we all know. I think that was kind of their best opportunity. Florida, I don't think anybody thinks Florida is going to go in and beat Alabama. My only question would be does Texas A&M have a shot as a one-loss non-SEC championship if, of course, they continue to win the rest of the year? Notre Dame, 1 loss. Texas A&M, 1 loss. Who gets in?
Morgan, I'll let you answer first.
Here we go. Did you see that?
I don't want to jump. It's the Morgan Thomas show, man. I didn't want to jump in front of the host.
Did you see?
He needs to cheat off your paper, Houston.
Did you see this? You know what? Just for that, Houston, you are not going last in the picks against the spread. Okay.
Okay.
You're not going last. All right. So I'm pulling up my win chart here because Houston jumps the line here, or he goes backwards in the line. Let's put it that way. I'm pulling up my predictions with the SEC schedule because the big thing is the SEC schedule, right? So here's my thing, Al. They've already dropped a ton. They're 4-2. Now, I believe you may have a 1-loss Notre Dame, and I believe you may have a 1-loss Clemson. That's going to really hurt their chances of getting back up there. And then you potentially, Texas A&M has already lost to Alabama, right? That was the second week of the season. So they've already made it through. They're not going to lose to LSU. They're not going to lose to Auburn. They're not going to lose to South Carolina, Tennessee, Ole Miss, Arkansas, right? So
you wouldn't think, but you never know.
I don't know. For me, I'm thinking. I mean, they've already played Arkansas? Are they playing Arkansas this week? Let's see. 1, 2, 3.
They're playing this week, don't they?
Well, they already played. They already played those 2. They're not gonna lose to Tennessee, Ole Miss, LSU, and Auburn. Those are the 4 games left. I went too far back. They've already played those games. But to me, Texas A&M, they ended up actually surprise winning Florida. Right? That was a home game. And so Texas A&M is going to cruise. I feel like Texas A&M cruises. Alabama, who do they play? They play LSU. They're going to beat that. And then they got Kentucky, Auburn, Arkansas. Where's the loss there? So
Alabama was cruising regardless.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. So and at that point, then you've got Florida. Florida, the only loss that I originally had for them was Georgia, but they ended up having Texas A&M. So Florida's remaining schedule, Arkansas.
They play Arkansas. Yeah.
Arkansas, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, Tennessee. Where do you get? I mean, Georgia's gone. I'm sorry, Dog fans. I picked you, and you burned me, and you're gone. It's over with. It's over with. All right, now Houston, continue.
I'll say this. Now, I could be wrong. Everything's going to turn out fine for everybody. Texas A&M may have a shot. If all things stay equal, all right, everybody wins out. Clemson beats Notre Dame in the ACC title game. Ohio State and Alabama are undefeated. Then Texas A&M isn't getting in because that's based off of Texas A&M did not make a conference title game. Notre Dame and Clemson's one losses are against each other, one during the regular season, one in the championship game. Both of them played for a title. Texas A&M is out in that circumstance. I think the only way Texas A&M is able to find their way in is you need attrition from both Alabama and Ohio State. But the problem there is there are other teams out there that could jump A&M. I know this is going to sound really strange, but BYU, if they stay undefeated and are 10-0, 11-0, yep, they could jump in there. And if they're beating teams 50-0 every week, they could potentially jump in. Another team, like I mentioned, if say someone out of the blue, like in Indiana, has a 2013 Auburn Miracle season and runs the table, goes to Columbus, wins in Madison against Wisconsin, and then goes and wins the Big Ten, they would jump into the picture as well. So Texas A&M needs a lot of losses from all parties. They need everybody in the Big Ten to lose. They need everybody in the SEC to lose. They probably need either Notre Dame to lose twice before they play Clemson, or Clemson to lose again to get in that picture. They're not in a good spot. I'll say this season kind of has a 2007 vibe, and if anybody who is a true blue college football fan understands, that season was insane. People losing every week, polls just going everywhere, and it just has that feeling that there's going to be a lot of attrition at the top. I'm not going to say Ohio State and Alabama lose or anything like that, but it wouldn't surprise me. We're counting teams out. I feel like we're not accounting for like a team like Arkansas, who has really improved this year. They have made a complete 180 from last year. A team like Indiana, who could very well go and compete in Columbus. There are other teams on the schedule, and you never know. Gus Malzahn can't win against anybody. He can't beat Will Muschamp, but dadgummit, he knows how to beat Nick Saban. And so you don't know. He's won in Tuscaloosa before, so we don't know. But Texas A&M needs 2007 to happen in order to be that second team from the SEC, or really the only team if everybody's losing to make it in.
And you've got some more things to worry about too. Cincinnati, undefeated. The rest of their schedule looks fine. BYU, as you mentioned, undefeated. They're playing North Alabama and San Diego State. Tell me how they're not going to stay undefeated. Indiana's schedule looks tough. I don't think they can keep it going. Miami schedule depends on who you get. They still have a potential of being a one-loss team. And then, like we said, Texas A&M, Florida, Alabama may not lose another game until they play each other, until they're forced to play each other, right? So, and then like Houston said, Texas A&M may be left out at that point, which they would be left out, because of that loss there. But it's crazy. It's crazy. I don't know what the committee is going to do, and then you add in something that I mentioned on Twitter at the Morgan T Show. Clemson is 7-1. If they were in the Big Ten, guys, the season would be over. How can this be fair? At the end of the day, how do you, with a clear conscience as the playoff committee, put a 2-loss Clemson above a no-loss 8-game team when Clemson has had to play 11 games and then an ACC championship game? It does. I just don't see how we're gonna get this together. I don't know how they're gonna figure it out. But what it looks like to me is Ohio State may even throw in a COVID game. They may only play 7 games and still be up in the top 5 top 4. It's frustrating.
I'll say this: if Ohio State has a COVID game and only plays 6 games, I think it's hard that. They may make it there, but they can't afford to miss more than one. Like if they pull a Wisconsin and don't play 2 games in a row, they're out. I don't see a team going 5-0 or something like that and only going to the playoff. I just don't see that happening. So
I agree.
They need to stay healthy. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. But it's still frustrating, even if you don't have a COVID game, to know that your Clemson team, our Clemson team, has played literally the entire Big Ten season as far as numbers go, and yet they still have 3 more games to go. So it's just a little bit frustrating for me to know that there's that unevenness in the scheduling right now, and not only that there's this unevenness, but that it was planned. And that it was planned from a league that started late on purpose and that refused to listen to everybody else. By the way, remember what I said at the beginning of the season. If all these teams would have started September 5th and played every other week, they would have had at least 11 games before the Super Bowl. I don't know. But, all right, so that was Alan's question. Good question. Thank you for getting in the chat as well. We'll get to your chat questions before we get this. Got a ton of people over on YouTube, ton on Facebook. Like, share, subscribe. Hit the notification. Houston, what you want to talk about tonight, man?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. We have to mention our feathered brethren in the Midlands, the children of the Golden Hen, as we like to say, the big giant Golden Hen statue down there. Are you feeling it? If there's any Gamecocks on the chat, let me hear you. Because
I wish I had the cricket button on that one. Can you say that one? You should have prepped me for that.
Yeah, I should have, but you know what? It wouldn't have mattered because we couldn't hear them on Saturday night anyway because they had already left Williams-Brice. It was pretty bad. 48-3 final. Like I said earlier, 150 yards total offense, 100 yards passing. It was very lackluster to say, and that's gotten the message boards rumbling around of a potential firing of said head coach named Will Muschamp.
No.
Oh, can you believe it? He's got a $13.2 million buyout. That's the only thing, considering I believe Ray Tanner said they were losing a total of $56 million in revenue this year. So you got to factor in that. So my question to the group is, will Muschamp be the first Power 5 coach fired in the year of our Lord and the pandemic 2020?
And make sure you get in the chat as well, because I'm putting these questions in there in case you missed them over on YouTube. If you're watching over on Facebook, I'll try to get over there as well. I got a ton of people over there. Get in there. Tell us your name. Tell us where you're watching, and how long you've been a Clemson fan. But also answer these questions out there. We're throwing them out there. We want to get your opinion. We will share them on the show as we get them in. So make sure you get in with us as well. We don't want to just talk ourselves. We want to get your input as well. I'm gonna pull a Houston on you, Al. What are your thoughts on this before I go?
Well, you just need a laugh button right now. Those are my thoughts on this right now, okay? Because look, they're struggling big time. You hear all kind of talk from the feathered friends. They're not happy with Will Muschamp. They want him gone. They're starting GoFundMe's to buy him out of his contract. Personally, I think Clemson needs to start a reverse GoFundMe. Okay, we want to pay Ray Tanner to keep this man. We want him around South Carolina just as long as they're willing to keep him. Okay, that is a very good thing for Clemson. This guy's not a head football coach, plain and simple. He's a good defensive coordinator. I think he's proven that wherever he's been, but he cannot coach a football team. It would not surprise me. Obviously, there's a lot of rumblings that he could be, relieved of duty, we'll say, as early as tonight. That's just internet rumor. Who knows how that could happen. And have Mike Bobo take over maybe. But hey, a guy I talked about Michigan. I think Jim Harbaugh is going to be competing for that spot if he's not careful. If he continues to lose these games, he's going to be on a hot seat in a hurry. So Harbaugh, Muschamp, hey, couldn't happen to two better guys.
Yeah, to me, I think the big issue, and I see this with Walt on Twitter, is that he's not making an adjustment on the offense. He's sticking with the same guy. Now, maybe Colin Hill's the best quarterback he has, but it's just kind of weird that you wouldn't play other quarterbacks when you're down so much and maybe try to play for next year or something like that. And that's kind of what some of the fans have told me as well, is they would rather him play for next year than do whatever he's doing right now, which maybe he's not playing for next year because maybe he understands there's no next year. And it could be the case. We're still, I don't know if you guys are watching Twitter. I've been kind of in and out, but we're going to keep checking on it as well, and see if we see anything. But they've got to travel to Ole Miss, which originally I said could be a winner for them. I don't see it. Ole Miss has way too good of an offense. All right, so Missouri at home, Georgia at home, Kentucky at home. Are there any wins there?
Well, Kentucky's on the road in Lexington.
Excuse me. Yeah, Kentucky.
I don't see wins in any of those. Missouri's playing inspired. Georgia's Georgia, and Kentucky's. I mean, they can't win under Muschamp in Lexington. So 2-8. I mean, if they're able to win 1 or 2 games, I mean that might save his job for real. As far as him being fired, I guess my point of this is I'm not sure if anyone's getting fired this year just because of budget constraints. But Utah State just fired their head coach this week for going 0-3. So you don't know. It's not out of the realm of possibility. I'll say this. If he doesn't get fired this year, everyone's getting fired next year. Everybody, South Carolina, Michigan, Texas, there's going to be a litany of teams getting fired. And that's going to be a problem for South Carolina because if they're with a bunch of people that don't fire this year and fire next year for budget purposes, they're going to be getting not their first choice for whoever's going to fill his shoes.
Yeah, I mean, do they really ever get their first choice? I mean, it's hard to say. But so let me tell you about another sponsor when we get into another segment. We're kind of ahead on sponsors and behind on segments. So we're going to keep it rolling here for you. But next up is Daniel Weber. Daniel Weber, State Farm Insurance Agent, 518 College Avenue, Suite 190, Clemson, South Carolina, 29631, 864-772-9083. InsuringClemson.com. Check out Daniel Weber for all your insurance needs. They're a good friend of ours, and we really appreciate their support of the show. So go check him out. If you have any questions about insurance, he's a Clemson graduate, and he'll talk to you and make sure that he covers you for auto, home, property, business, life, health, anything that you need. Go give him a call, 864-722-9083. They got great Google reviews. Go check him out. Great office, great atmosphere, and great customer service. So Daniel Weber, State Farm Insurance Agent. Al, tell them about Heating and Cooling Services real quick.
Yeah, I can definitely do that. Heating and Cooling Services, Inc., family-owned and operated, serving Anderson County and surrounding areas since 1980. Heating and Cooling Services, Inc. is your residential and commercial comfort expert. Anything from preventative maintenance of your home HVAC system to overhauling a commercial chiller or anything in between. If you want to breathe easier and be nice and cool in your home or business this summer, or nice and cozy and warm in your home or business this winter, give Heating and Cooling Services, Inc. a call. You're going to want to talk to Mark or Jason Trammell. Their number is 864-224-7655. Again, that number is 864-224-7655. Like I've told you before, they've done work on my AC unit. Man, they've got me running strong. I hadn't had any problems in 2 years, and this is a unit that has given me problems almost every year since I bought this house. They came, fixed it, saved me a ton of money doing it, and it works like a charm. All right, you're going to want to talk to Mark or Jason Trammell. Tell them the Morgan Thomas Show sent you.
Bro, don't you just love buying a home and having problems like that? But Heating and Cooling Services will be there for you in the cold or in the heat. Doesn't matter. That's why it's heating and cooling. We're going to be talking about Clemson, Notre Dame up next, segment number 2. Really, we're kind of behind on segments, but again, ahead on ads. But segment number 2, no more ads for the rest of the night. We're going to go straight through. And then segment number 3 is our picks against the spread, ACC games, and top 10 or top 5 games of the week. This time picked from Houston. In the chat, got some comments going on. Thank you so much for the comments over on YouTube. Let me check through them real quick. Logan comes in and say, hey, do you think this year will be the same as the year Deshaun beat Alabama by a couple of points? You know, it's hard to say because this year of all years, and we'll just briefly touch on this. This year of all years is so unicorn-like because of COVID and also because of Clemson is having to deal with injuries at a level that they normally have not. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I tend to agree with that. It's tough to call because luck has a lot to do with winning a national championship a lot of times. You got to have luck on your side. Clemson appears to not have the luck on their side right now. Now, it's better that it happens here than, come ACC championship time. So hopefully Clemson is able to get healthy. And I do personally believe that Clemson will be the national champions if they can get healthy.
Agreed 100%. I mean, it's hard to win against the 4th-ranked team in the country on the road when you're playing with basically your second and third string defense. And that's, I mean, even those guys were having problems, or their first string was having problems. But yeah, I mean, it's a tough night when you don't have your entire secondary, basically.
Thanks for the question, Logan. You too can get on the show as well. If you put in a question over on YouTube or Facebook, we really appreciate it. Let's get into Clemson versus Notre Dame. They had to travel to South Bend, Indiana. And, man, it was a back-and-forth battle. After the first quarter, 7-10, Notre Dame was up. At halftime, it was 23-13, and Clemson was trying to fight to get back in it. Clemson then came and answered with 10 unanswered points in the third quarter to make it 23-23, and then another 10. They split 10s in the fourth quarter to tie the game up 33-33. They went into overtime. Clemson came out, looked really good. Now, Al, I had already left your house. So Alan and I watched the game. Like I said, Houston wasn't there with us, unfortunately. He was invited. He just was too good for us. But I left your house at halftime, had to take the little girl home so she'd go to bed. But going into halftime, or going into overtime, I mean, I still felt confident. I felt confident with DJ. He looked good. But what I didn't feel confident with was that it was my first thought that popped in my head was, oh no, shorter field. The defense can't stop anybody. I just hope DJ can keep scoring, because the defense will not be able to stop them with 90 yards to go, and they definitely can't stop them with 25 yards to go.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that for the most part. I mean, it was just, and it's not that we don't have faith in the Clemson defense. I think we've been propping the defense up all year long. They're just injured. They've got everybody out. Okay, they have some of the best pieces they have, and even lost more in that game. I mean, we already had Skowski out. We already had Davis out. We already had Mike Jones out. And then we lost, I don't even know if they came back for overtime. We lost Nolan Turner at one point. We lost Landon Zanders at one point. We lost Brian Brzee. We were losing everybody. I mean, goodness gracious, it was crazy. I mean, you just had to outscore them. I honestly wanted us in the second overtime. Well, we didn't ever get there, but I was hoping we would score a touchdown, go for two, and just try to end it immediately. But the fact of the matter is, and I don't know if you wanted to get to this yet, but we should have won that in regulation. I think there was some disastrous coaching decisions there at the end of the game. So Houston, give us your thoughts, because you look like you have something to say.
I do. I don't know what in the world is going through. I don't know if this was Dabo Swinney's mindset or Tony Elliott's mindset. The game should have been won, or at least given Notre Dame the ball back with very minimal time left. If they score and go 90 yards in a minute, which is not our night, but when you get the ball back with 2:11 in the game, you go through and get the stop that you need. Clemson got the stop they needed, all right? And were able only to run off I believe only like 17 seconds off the clock. In the last play, they ran out of bounds. Clemson ran out of bounds with Travis Etienne. What in the world? What kind of play calling is that? It's ultra conservative. You know that Notre Dame the entire night is just selling out completely on the run. They were not going to allow you to run it. So I know this is not conventional thinking, but throw short passes. Just like, well, 5 yard out, 5 yard in the middle of the field, get down on the ground and run the clock. Make them use their timeouts. It's stupid. If you drop the ball, I'd probably be complaining about it. But considering that DJ Uiagalelei threw for 439 yards and he couldn't miss. I mean, that's the thing. Yep. DJ has thrown for 700 yards and has scored 6 touchdowns in his first 2 games. And honestly, he's put the team on his back for the first 2 games. You need to put that in his hands, not running the ball or anything like that. Let him throw the ball. And it doesn't have to be long. Short passes, get on the ground, run the clock, let them use timeouts. And even before then, all right, you had 2 separate times when it was tied 23-23, when it was tied 26-26, or maybe it was one of the times where we'd gotten the lead. But you had time to just put that game away, put that game on ice, seize momentum, and just take the lead. And I always felt like when we got the stop, especially after the turnover, we got the stop in the end zone, we didn't seek the kill shot. If you'd have gone deep there with DJ going to Cornell Powell, who Cornell Powell has just come alive. The kid is just playing out of his mind right now. Go deep to him. I mean, you got a quarterback who can throw it from the 20 to the other 20. I don't know if you saw that. It was the most incredible pass I've ever seen since Deshaun threw one against App State in 2015. It was incredible. Let him do it. Let the kid go to work. You've got to seize the opportunity, especially with the talent that you have at quarterback. They did not, and that's why you ultimately lost the game.
So there's a lot of bodies. I'm seeing some updates now. As you know, the Tiger calls happened about 8 o'clock right before our show. A lot of bodies out there. We've got, here's some words from Dabo Swinney. We're going to see where they are tonight and go from there. The worst one was probably Frank Ladson, who had a couple of bad breaks. He hurt his foot. He'll probably be out a couple of weeks. That's probably the worst injury we had. However, true freshman defensive lineman Brian Bresee escaped serious injury. We got good news on Bresee. There's no ligament damage. He just got hit on his knee. A bunch of people, it's crazy thing. A couple of guys had some concussions that we know of. Hopefully they can nurse those. Sweeney also said that the plan is to get Tyler Davis with an ankle injury, Mike Jones with a hamstring injury back for Florida State. In other news, he said Trevor Lawrence is a full go. And also I'm seeing from Mr. David Hood word on Skalski. Skalski has had surgery, will probably be out until later December. Mm-hmm. So still very banged up, but again, praise the Lord for a good recovery or a good outlook for Brian Bresee. No information on Bockhorst, but I see on Twitter some people saying that they think it's a sprain as well. Looks like Clemson insider Will Vandervoort posted. Looks like it's a sprain, possibly some issues with a kneecap, maybe something that he'll miss a couple of games. I'm telling you what, guys, this team cannot make it to national championship as beat up as they are. They're going to have to get healthy. They're going to have to get healthy and continue to win games with people out. And so that means that guys are going to have to step up. That means that games might be closer than they really should be. But it all kind of, it goes back to, yes, I'm frustrated that Clemson can't seem to run the ball. We're getting in chat every single week. Clemson can't run the ball. We actually already knew, we've been seeing this for 3 or 4 weeks, that the offensive line is basically a pass-blocking offensive line at an elite level, but not a run-blocking offensive line. I mean, not even an average run-blocking offensive line. Travis Etienne is being done a disservice because of this offensive line. And we get people in there saying, well, Etienne cost the game. Yes, Etienne and DJ are not on the same page. Yes, they fumbled. But did you notice that guy was almost in his face when that ball was I mean, how many times do you have a ball snapped immediately and the guy's right there to take it right out of your hands? Not very many. But with this offensive line, this is what happens. And it goes back to what Houston was saying. When you understand as an offensive coordinator, this is the offensive line that you have, you're going to have to do something different. You can't keep running up the middle. Alan, there were times last Saturday night that they were running up the middle, and it was like Notre Dame brought the house because they knew it was coming. And that's when you get frustrated as a fan because you're like, you're not successful in the A-gap. You know that you're going to, for whatever reason, they're going to keep doing it. And even the other team knows they're blitzing free safety, strong safeties, middle line, but they're blitzing everybody in that same gap because they know it's coming. It's frustrating. It didn't put Travis Etienne in a situation to be successful, and it shows on the stat sheet. He only had, 28 yards rushing, I believe? That's a terrible, I don't even want to say that. For the ACC all-time leading rusher, just left that game with 28 points. Guys, there has to be something done with this offensive line run blocking. I mean, do it for Travis Etienne, guys. Do it for Travis because that's not fair. It's not fair for him to have to sit there. And it's hard on the team as a whole. But thankfully, and I saw some people knocking DJ for not winning the game. Like Houston said, I don't know how long you've been a Clemson fan, but DJ just broke Deshaun's record for passing the ball. So let's walk that back a little bit.
Way back.
DJ held
He's
that team up, and he did awesome. And guess what else DJ didn't do? He didn't throw any interceptions and he didn't lose the game, okay? Yep. Maybe he didn't have enough to win the game. But to be honest with you, why should DJ and Travis, even with all that being said, Clemson's won national championship game with not the best run game. What is going on with the defense? Well, we go back to it. We can't really beat up the defense too bad either because they have so many players out. It's hard. This is a patchwork defense. And that's why I go back. The main thing is it's not the players. To me, and I'm not even going to say it's the coaching. I know it's so easy to say it's the coaching. I know you guys maybe don't agree with me. But in the situation that Clemson's in right now, the most pressing thing is not throwing the playbook away. It's not figuring out the run game. It's getting healthy. That's number one for me.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. Number one is getting healthy for sure. I think what's frustrating and why we're so down on the coaches. And look, a lot of people want to talk about armchair quarterbacks. It's easy to say in hindsight. Look, I've been telling you, Tony Elliott is getting us behind the eight ball, running the up the middle on first down all year long, and that played out. Okay, look, the fact of the matter is, yeah, there's times where we used to get on him for not using ETN enough. Okay, North Carolina last year was a great example of that. Well, we can do that. You have to read the room. Okay, and in this room on this night, the run was getting stuffed because they were selling out to stop the run on first down every single series, and we continued to do it. Okay, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, goodness gracious, I had hoped that one play, okay, when we got the ball there at the end, I was like, look, all we need is a first down, and this game is over. Okay, and the whole world knows Tony Elliott is going to take this ball and run it up the middle, whether it's Dabo's call, whether it's his call. We know that's going to be the play. If they just do play action to Travis Etienne, Davis Allen or Braden Galloway is going to be wide open over the middle. That's all it's going to take. And I held deep hope way down in my heart that it was going to happen, and it didn't. It was basically run, punt. It was, again, it was a terrible, terrible decision to not go for the first down there. Unbelievably bad decision. And the fact that, look, we always want to lean on our defense there. Okay, that is a thing we've always done at Clemson. We always do that. We go into prevent offense at the end of the games. We kick and we put it on our defense, and that's great when your defense has all their players. We don't right now. We don't even have anywhere close to all our players, not at the beginning of this game, and we have even less at the end of this game. Okay, the fact of the matter is we didn't have the horses to make the stops that we always make. Okay, and that's where you had to change your strategy right here. They didn't do it. It's disappointing. Look, the fact of the matter is they are going to fix it. Okay, we are going to get healthy, and I think they're going to hammer Notre Dame in the ACC championship, assuming we get healthy, and we're going to be back in the playoffs, and we can try to whine about something then, because we're going to be rooting hard for our Clemson Tigers, as we always do. We want what's best for them. It's just frustrating to see things like this happen over and over again. And look, I give Tony Elliott a lot of trouble on this show, okay, at times. He knows more about football than I probably ever will. That's what makes it frustrating when anybody, even a casual football fan, can see the run up the middle on first down is not working, and we did it all game.
Yeah, I noticed we got to the point where we were even saying that. I mean, Alan, you were saying it out loud. Another run, another run. Marty was saying, I bet you they're going to run on first down. I bet you they're going to run on first down. I bet you they're going to run on first down. Sure enough, they ran on first down. That goes to tendencies. That goes to consistently doing something over and over and over. You can't beat it up, because if it's not working, you got to go away from it. Kind of like what Houston was saying. Hey, a sideline pass behind the line of scrimmage is basically like what Clemson is normally used to doing. Why don't just do that in some cases, right? And then it was frustrating on the defensive line. Javon McKinley, Kyron Williams, Kyron Williams, 140 yards rushing, just tore it up, right? But the part where he did so well, I mean, was there one missed block from that guy? He picked up every single blitzing linebacker that Blitz Venables sent to him. And we know Brent's game plan is to fluster the quarterback and play man coverage and lean on the fact that you have better athletes. Brent Venables, that's his game plan, is to agitate you with the blitz and press you on the outsides. But when you have a running back that literally picks up every single blitzing linebacker that comes at him. I mean, he had two at one time, and it was like he had a split-second decision. Which one will you go for? And go figure, the one he went for was the one that was going to be unblocked, because the other guy that he didn't go for ran into the back of Brian Bresee. And I'm like, this is going to be the night that no one can get to Ian Book. And when Ian Book has time, he is very successful. 310 yards passing, 7.9 yards per pass, one touchdown. He also ran the ball well, 68 yards for 4.5 yards per carry. So very frustrating at Clemson defense, but also very frustrating from a Clemson fan point of view, because it's like hats off to Notre Dame. Yeah, hats off to Notre Dame. You're playing with a bunch of like crucial players out. We're not talking about guys out. We're talking about crucial players, and they're going to continue to be out. So it's a concern for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree. And look, I want to say this, Houston. I'll let you get in here in just a second. I've given I've given Elliott a hard time tonight. A little bit of hard time over the past few weeks. Look, what I want to say about Elliott, and the problem is there is a but to this. He actually really showed me some creativity against Notre Dame. I actually really thought that 2/3 of his game plan, or half of his game plan, was actually really good. I like how they set up the pop pass, kind of like they did at Ohio State. We got Davis Allen on a seam up the middle that was beautiful. Used the middle of the field with Powell and Rogers, and I know Rogers fumbled one, but it is what it is. That they tried to get Etienne the ball in several different ways, and that's great. That's great. Okay, but the problem is, first down was horrible all night long, and that's a 30-year plays. Okay, and it's not that it's that it's just not working. Oh, we missed a block. It's just, goodness gracious, it was a bad play call, and they knew what was coming the whole time, and you didn't adjust to it. I think that was kind of the frustrating thing. You always want to run to set up the pass. In this game, it was pretty obvious we should have been passing to try to set up the run, because DJ was putting it on the money all night. DJ was incredible in that game. So I really did, honestly, I did like what I saw from Elliott in several of those situations there. Second and third down, I mean, he was doing great, and DJ was getting the ball, and we were getting first. But I just hate being behind the 8 ball after first down. Every down.
First down, like you said, is a majority of the plays you've got to play first down. I mean, guess what? I believe 100% of the plays you have to play first down. It's kind of like putting in golf. You have to do it before the hole's over. And when you can't do it successfully, it's not like we're saying it's they're not good on third down, not good on fourth down. They're not good on first down. That puts you behind immediately, and you have to change up how you're doing things. And it is something that maybe it's because the offensive line has a difficulty even getting anything going, so it's kind of hard when you can't do a traditional run. What do? You have to kind of go outside your playbook and go outside of tradition, and that makes it a little bit more predictable, because the defense is not necessarily as worried about sending so many people against the run, because they know they've been handling it. But let's give hats off. A lot of people saying, I don't want people to finish this show or finish this segment saying, man, all they did was gripe. All they did was gripe. Well, we can gripe. We like it. It's easy to gripe. But I did give hats off to Kyron Williams. Great job picking up the block. Great job running the ball. Man, masterful. Ian Book, wow, congratulations. You are one of the reasons why Notre Dame finally has a win against a number one team. Brian Kelly has never had a top 5 win, I believe, or maybe even a ranked win, I want to say. Brian Kelly has notoriously been bad against ranked teams. But Ian Book, Kyron Williams definitely did it. And man, that defense as well locked up Clemson. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, I guess I said it right. I'm not really sure. Owusu-Koramoah, man, 9 total tackles, a half a sack, and 2.5 tackles for loss, just all over the field. Did great for sure. So props to the Notre Dame side. Let's give some props to Clemson side. Offensive, defensive player of the game. Alan, I'll start with you. Offensive player of the game for me, got to go with Cornell Powell. 6 receptions, 161 yards, 1 touchdown, had a 53-yard catch as well. Huge, man. I think Houston was talking about it. Just a great pass and catch there from DJ to Cornell, who they seem to be like college roommates right now. And I know that graduates aren't staying with freshmen.
Yeah, they're vibing for sure. I think we need to all give it like a virtual hug to Cornell Powell, because this is the Cornell Powell we've wanted to see for years. He is killing it right now. He is stepping up in a big way in the absence of Ross, in the absence of Ladson, in the absence of Ngata. He has become the man. I mean, him and Rogers are both grown men right now out there, and it's fantastic to see. I had Cornell Powell as well.
I'm going to give it to DJ Uiagalelei. Look, he's had arguably the greatest start to any freshman's career, and we're talking about the likes of Deshaun and Trevor Lawrence. The kid is on fire, and he's got the best deep ball I've ever seen. That's counting Deshaun and Trevor. I was there for Deshaun Watson's first touchdown pass in Athens. I thought it was the best ball I've ever seen until Saturday night when DJ threw it from the 20 to another 20 right in the breadbasket of Cornell Powell. I had to pick my jaw up off the floor. Kid can sling it. He needs to maybe take a little mustard off of it sometimes on the shorter passes, because he's breaking kids' fingers. But dadgummit, he can play, and I'm going to give him the player of the game.
Yeah, breaking kids' fingers is for sure I don't know who exactly it was. I think it might have been Travis, but it's basically like you're gonna get hurt. Your hands are hurting, and I think even Cornell Powell stubbed his finger there on one of those catches as well during the game. But Clemson defense really hard for me. Hard for me. 47 points put up on the board, very hard. You know, when it's hard for me, I got to lean on the guy that I think felt like was doing well. And I'm going with Darion Kendrick. I felt like he had good coverage majority of the time against the guy that he was matched up against, and it was very difficult. I know it's very hard, and I wanted to say this because Alan, likes to pick on cornerbacks not turning their head around, things like that. But it is very hard when you've got the guy not. Hey, who said Ben Skowronek was gonna have a game? Well, he ended up, making some pretty decent catches there. But Michael Meyer went out there and did well too. I saw his name a ton, but Javon McKinley did as well too. But I got to give it to either him or also Balin Spector, man, leading the total tackles. Those two guys, I felt like, were out there. I don't know why Sheridan Jones was ahead of Andrew Booth, but, I felt like maybe Andrew Booth should be out there a little bit more. But those are my thoughts on defense. It's still kind of hard, though.
Yeah, good news is, I didn't have any problem with the defensive backs and getting their heads around in that game. I mean, they were actually in pretty good position all game. Ian Book was flat out putting it on the money, and they were making some tough catches. It was just kind of a perfect storm. They played great. You got to tip your cap to Notre Dame and kind of move on there. When you're looking over the defense, there's just not a lot that stands out, to be honest with you. I thought the DBs actually the cornerbacks actually played pretty well for the most part. I thought Brian Brzee was pretty disruptive. Again, it's just really difficult because he's getting double teamed all the time. I actually went a little bit different on this particular one. I went KJ Henry. He had a sack, tackle for loss. Henry has not quite been what I was hoping he was going to be this year. After he took his redshirt year, got bigger, got stronger. I'm hoping he's going to break out. I still think he will break out eventually. I just don't know that it's going to be this season. He's been solid this year, looking for more, but this was a decent game from him.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Balin Spector leading the teams in tackles, and then also had the one fumble recovery in the end zone, which was crucial at the time. So I think Spector probably played the most complete game on the defense. I'll give him the player of the game.
All right, so offensive and defensive grades, and then we'll get to our picks against the spread. We're going to have to do this one really fast, my friends. But offensive grade, again, so hard. So hard. I'm going to give them a C. I feel like if you just say, DJ, 40 points, DJ was amazing. Tell me DJ, I'll give him an A+. Tell me Travis, tell me that run blocking, tell me some of the plays that were called. I'm giving it a low C at most. So at best, I'm giving a B- on this one. 40 points is still 40 points. You would hope a Brent Venables team would win the game or help you win the game scoring 40 points. So I really don't necessarily want to put a ton on the offense, but it just didn't seem like that this Clemson team, it just seems like this Clemson team's almost too one-dimensional now, and they had the least amount of injuries on their side. So, that's my worry.
Yeah, look, I actually gave them, I was a little bit lenient on this one. I gave them a B-, and I'll tell you why. The fact of the matter is, man, I got to be honest, I've said the fact of the matter probably like 800 times tonight.
Stop
I apologize
it.
Just for that when you're editing that. But the fact of the matter is that, that they scored, I'm going to say 33 points. They didn't score 40 points. I'm not counting overtime, okay? They scored 33 points on a really good defense, okay? And DJ Uiagalelei was able to throw the ball wherever he wanted. Okay, which is again why they should have done it more. Okay, look, yeah, you gotta have better running than that. Goodness gracious, the line's got to figure something out. But if you realize you can't do it, stop. Do something else. Do something differently. And when they threw it, they gained yards. Powell, huge day. Rogers, huge day. Okay, I mean it was just DJ was able to do whatever he wanted whenever he wanted. I love Davis Allen getting open. Braden Galloway got open again. And I like like I said, I like the creativity I saw from Elliott in the pass game, for sure. I didn't think he did a bad job there at all. Very, very nice to see. I think he kind of opened up the playbook a little bit and kind of give future teams something to look at for sure. But overall, got to give him a B-. The run game brought him down a little bit, but the passing game was great.
I'll break this up into passing versus running. Passing A++, run game D-. Play calling A++ for the pass, for run game F.
Yeah,
It's almost like they turned in a college paper and only turned in half the work, and you can't really give them I can't give them a B in that. I'm a very lenient grader. But if you turn in half the work, which means you had a pass game and no run game, I'm looking at this stat sheet, guys, and I almost want to cry. 1.6 yards per carry, Travis Etienne. 1.6. And then you've got a stat sheet for the receiving. Powell 161, Rogers 134, Etienne 57, Galloway 46. It's like this is so lopsided there. 34 rushing yards to 439 passing yards. That is really unacceptable on the offensive side of the ball for sure. On defensive side of the ball, I felt like they turned in an entire paper, but it was a finance test. It was a finance test, and they didn't bring their calculator because their calculator was broken. Okay, that's what happened. The defense probably could have done a lot better. The defense probably could have got an A on this one, maybe even a B. But 47 points, you can't get a B for me on that one. Double overtime loser, and they just walked in twice on you in overtime. Can't give me, especially on defense that's normally really good in the red zone. Can't give you a B on that one either. I got to give you a C on this one. Not good, but it was because it was a TA83II, and yours was broken.
Yeah. Again, this is kind of interesting because we've switched roles because now I'm going to be the tougher grader. I gave him a D on this. Okay, look, the only reason they didn't get an F is because of injuries, and you have to take that into account. I do think, but for the defense that was on the field, okay, for the most part, I'm giving them a D. Look, they had a bad night. Venables' defense did not have a good night. The linebacker was a major issue that night. Could not make plays in space. Gave up several third and longs, blitzing. They got zero pressure the whole night. They had it all day to do whatever they wanted. Just a tough night for the defense. Give them a D. Look, they'll get healthy. They'll be back to an A. Don't worry about it. Shake it off, Tiger fans. We'll be back.
I'm going to be the harshest of graders and give a D-. Stop running a three-man front. Then I might consider giving you a better grade. But until then, you're going to keep getting picked off and keep giving up 3rd and 14s in space to tight ends who you should be able to tackle 7 yards short of that. So D- on that one.
Ouch. So overall, let's see what we have in chat. Alan, if you got anything over on Facebook, I really appreciate it. Again, thank you so much. We got about 26 watching on YouTube. The way that you can help us out on YouTube is make sure you like and make sure you comment or let us know where you're at, what you're like, what kind of, if you're a Clemson fan or not, and then also make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bar. We really appreciate that. I actually have like a notification reminder here. Let's see if I can play it. There we go. Look at that. Like, subscribe, hit the notification. Now, I'm not ignoring you over on Facebook as well. Make sure you like the video and share it and follow us as well. We got a ton of people over on Facebook. We like to check in a ton over there. And then we also have southlandclub.com, which is our website that we like to write articles for as well. But that is the end of our Clemson Notre Dame chat. We could go on all night about this, fellas. I think there's still more to talk about. But let me ask you this before I go any further. Surprise player of the game. Is there any? I mean, I would have to say Cornell Powell, hands down. I mean, just really showed out. Surprise word of the game. Cornell Powell after a touchdown with a hot mic.
Gosh.
Let's just put that.
Love it.
Yeah,
I love it. Mike Tirico having to apologize to America. Well, we're all adults here. There might just be a little bit of adult language here.
You got to remember, he's been at Clemson for 5 years, and this is the best game he's ever had. So he's allowed to say whatever he wants while he has the football crossing the end zone. He's allowed to say whatever he wants. But yes, this is a family show, and we don't say those words here. But you know what? I mean, when it's in the moment, I can't say that I haven't said some things in the past. But again, let's talk about the NCAA college football week 11. Week 11. I believe there's only 17 weeks left to go in the season. So week 11 we're looking at. We're going to talk about the ACC games, and then we're going to do Houston's top 5 games of the week. We actually have an extra one in there because right now we don't know if Alabama is going to play at LSU. We're going to try to go through this fast here. So let me get my ACC games up. If you're over in the chat, we really appreciate you coming in as well. And make sure you get in on the chat board with your picks against the spread. Again, we're going to go fast here. All right, you guys ready?
Giddy up.
Ready.
All right, the first one is number 9 Miami Hurricanes 6-1 versus, and they're going to Blacksburg, Virginia Tech Hokies. They're 4-3 overall. Right now, the FPI for ESPN is 62.2% to Virginia Tech. 62.2%. So I'm guessing they're going to put in the fact that this is a home game for them. It might be difficult there in Lane Stadium, but it's a little bit different considering COVID. I'm not even sure how many fans they can have still right now. I know originally they only could have 1,000, so it's hard to say. But both of these teams kind of match up pretty evenly. They both can score a ton. The biggest difference is that Virginia Tech can run the ball crazy good, 277 yards per game right now under Khalil Herbert, which is a transfer there from Kansas. So we're starting with you, Houston. What you got? It's let me see. The spread is -2.5 to Virginia Tech. So 2.5, just barely a favorite.
I'm actually going to take the Hokies in this one. They just lost to Liberty. They're in shock. They should not have lost that game in their minds. I look for them to rebound this week, give the ball to Khalil Herbert. Miami seems to be reeling a little bit on defense after last week, giving up 41 in Raleigh, having to go to Blacksburg now. Give me the Hokies to cover.
Alan, what you got?
Look, I think Virginia Tech, they're struggling on defense pretty bad right now. I like Miami and what they can do. Virginia Tech just got beat by Liberty. I think this loss beats them twice. I'm going to take Miami.
And, I've got to go. To me, I think Miami just traveled to NC State and won by 3. So I'm going to say they're going to continue their road success and be able to win this game as well. +2.5. I like that. Give me +2.5 going into Blacksburg there. So we've got Houston. Let me write this down. I didn't write this down first. Houston going with Virginia Tech minus the points. Allen and myself going with Miami. I think Miami too is going to take this very seriously, Houston, because they saw this Clemson loss, and so they're going to try to do what they can to win these games and hope that Clemson stubs their toe again or continues to have bad injuries and gets messed up later on in the season, because Clemson's got to play these games too. Next up, Wake Forest at North Carolina. Wake Forest 4-2, getting better. Right now, got a winning record and getting better every single week. They just come off a big win against Syracuse, and they beat Virginia Tech, and they beat Virginia, and they beat Campbell. So they got 4-game winning streak right now. And then you've got North Carolina, who, and this is a noon game at Chapel Hill in Kenan Stadium. North Carolina seems to be getting worse to me. I'm a little bit worried about their defense. They're getting worse every single week. They did have a good game against Duke, but I really don't want to give a lot of credit to that, because I just don't think Duke is that good either. But North Carolina can score 40 points per game. Wake Forest can score 37 points a game. I feel like that Wake Forest and North Carolina are going to be very even. It's -13.5 to North Carolina. FPI right now, 63%. What you got, Houston?
I'm going to this might be against my better judgment. I'm going to take Wake Forest, and not to win outright, but I think they'll cover. Wake Forest is a decent team. They seem to give North Carolina problems any year. Doesn't matter if they're good, bad, or indifferent. I feel like Wake Forest is going to be able to give them problems. They have a decent enough defense to stop North Carolina, at least for a couple drives. But I think North Carolina's talent overall will bring them a couple extra points at the end. I think North Carolina wins, but does not cover.
Yeah, look, North Carolina has been pretty good for me all year. They've only lost on me once or twice. Wake Forest has screwed me all year. It doesn't really matter whether I pick them or whether I don't. So I'm going to go with UNC here to cover the points. And again, Wake Forest can score, so it really doesn't seem like the smart pick. But the Tar Heels have done me pretty well this year, so I'm going to hang with them.
It's not the smart pick, Alan. I'm going with Wake Forest here. You're going with the Tar Heels. So that gives 2 Lone Wolves here. We got Lone Wolf, Houston, Virginia Tech, and Lone Wolf Allen, North Carolina. Is that correct? I'm still tracking here. All right.
Hey, Morgan, let me track them. I'll write them down. You just go with it.
All right. So then we got number 2 Notre Dame, Notre Dame -13.5 at Boston College. Notre Dame is 7-0, just coming off a huge win against Clemson. Boston College, though, 5-3, one of the better teams in the ACC. To be honest, they only lost to Clemson by I believe 6 points, 34-28. There, Boston College has a great defense, and they got a good passing game as well. FPI right now, Notre Dame. It says 14%. 85%. Notre Dame right now, 85.8% chance to win. Again, the spread is minus 13.5. What you got, Houston?
And you'll have to excuse the dog flapping ears over there. I'm picking Notre Dame to win, but I feel like this is one of those games. Big, huge, momentum-swinging, program-changing game against Clemson. You exhausted all your team. You rallied your team to make it through a double overtime game. It's going to be a sleepy, empty. It almost feels overcast right now. Overcast day in Chestnut Hill. They're going to get off to a slow start. I think this game is going to look similar to the Clemson-Boston College game, where Notre Dame's going to be in a bigger tussle than they anticipated. So I picked them to win, but not to cover.
I actually agree 100% with Houston here, except for he does leave out the fact that Phil Jurkovec is the quarterback for Boston College, and he was passed over for the job at Notre Dame. I think he's going to have a score to settle here. I'm picking BC to cover.
I'm doing the same as well. I like BC. I think they can keep it close. If they kept it close to Clemson, I think they can keep it close to Notre Dame. Look, I don't think that Notre Dame would have won that game if Clemson had all their players on the field. So I don't think that Notre Dame had such an amazing win as what everybody wants to give them. And I think that Boston College is one of those teams, if any team, especially at their home base, can keep you close. And I also like the fact that Jeff Hafley is his strength is stopping the pass. Okay, his strength is that he's going to lean on that. And one of the things that Notre Dame can do to gash you big time is the passing game. I feel like they're going to lock that down, so it's just going to be a run game. So there's going to be a lot of clock taken off. So plus 13.5 at home. Give me the home dog. I don't think there's going to be enough time, if that makes any sense. I think there's going to be a lot of time run off the clock. Next up, Louisville at Virginia. Virginia -3. We actually picked this one last week. I don't even remember what my pick was. I think it was Virginia. So I think I'm going to go with Virginia again, but I'm going to wait. I'm holding it in. So Houston, you tell me.
I'm going to say Virginia as well. Virginia -3.
Yeah, we all picked Virginia from what I remember last week. Louisville and Wake Forest have been my kryptonite against picks against the spread all year. It doesn't really matter whether I go with them or against them. I had too much faith in them earlier in the year and not enough later in the year, but I'm going UVA -3.
Next up, Pittsburgh -6.5 at Georgia Tech. This one's an interesting game. Pittsburgh right now projected to win 65%. And we know that if Kenny Pickett's back, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, give me Kenny Pickett to cover the 6.5.
I'd agree. If Kenny Pickett's playing, I think their offense is better than anything Georgia Tech puts out on defense. So give me Pittsburgh to cover.
Same.
And then the last ACC game, Florida State at NC State. -7 for the Wolfpack. Ooh. This is a 7:30 game. Gonna have to wait all night. Florida State 2-5, 1-5 in the conference. NC State 4-3, 4-3 in the conference. ESPN FPI has NC State 73.9% chance to win this game. They both are very, very even though. 385 total yards offense a game for Florida State, 395 for North Carolina. 471 given up on defense per game for Florida State. 472 for North Carolina on defense given up. Very, very even when you look at those stats. Both teams coming off 2 losses. Florida State lost at home to Pittsburgh, 41-17. They also lost traveling to Louisville, 48-16. But North Carolina barely lost to Miami and then did kind of get blown out on the road to UNC. So what you got, Houston?
I feel I'm going to go with the team that has identity, and that's NC State. They have a talented group of wide receivers. They seem to actually have picked up with Bailey Hockman coming in at quarterback and being able to deal out the ball. A little bit more confidence in the quarterback position. Florida State's offensive and defensive lines are absolute garbage still. Nothing's changed. So I'm going to go with a team with the identity. Give me NC State to win and cover.
Yeah, so Casey Cregan gets in with a great point here on Facebook. Says Bailey Hockman looked good. FSU transfer. So we got a kind of Phil Jerkovic situation going on here with BC against Notre Dame. I'm going to pick NC State to cover here as well.
Ooh, another lock for all of us as well. So we've got
Four in a row.
All 4 in a row. We pick BC, Virginia, Pittsburgh, NC State, and the theme that we had 2 out of the 3 is revenge on the school you left. So keep that in mind. That's our ACC games of the week. Yeah, you're right. We didn't pick a Clemson game because Clemson does not play this week. They have an off week, and then they will head to play Florida State in a game that would normally be pretty tough one. We don't know what we're going to get this year, though. Okay, Houston. Houston picked these games. Number 5, Texas A&M, -8 at Tennessee. Texas A&M is 78.2% chance to win here, according to ESPN's Football Power Index. Texas A&M 5-1, Tennessee 2-4. I know a lot of people thought that they were going to be doing better than that, but not starting out so well. Texas A&M last game, huge beat up of South Carolina. Tennessee lost at Arkansas. They've actually lost 4 games in a row. Texas A&M won 4 games in a row.
This game's fishy to me. It's got a fishy line, got a fishy smell to me. Always at the end of the season, Tennessee and Texas A&M are bound to have one big win and one big loss. Tennessee, you can go all the way back to 2013 in November when they were able to stun then, I believe, 4th-ranked South Carolina 23-21. Texas A&M seems to have one of these games that creeps up like an Auburn or a Mississippi State or something like that in the month of November. I'm not going to say that Texas A&M loses, but I don't think they cover. I think it's within 8 points. I'm picking Texas A&M to win, but it's going to be closer than the experts think.
Yeah, this line, it really fishy because this morning I looked it up at 8 o'clock and this morning it was 13.5 and it's 8. Okay, and I actually picked Tennessee with 13.5. I don't care how fishy the line is. Again, we've been doing this all year. It's one of those where your brain says, hey, something's going on here, but what do you do? I mean, I really think A&M's gonna cover that. I mean, Tennessee's awful. They're just not any good. They've gotten blown out by Kentucky with turnovers. I think they're going to get turnover prone again. I have to take Texas A&M here to cover.
I'm going with you too, Al. I wrote down fishy. Okay, so I'm gonna tag this one as fishy, and we're gonna have to get a sound on the soundboard for the fish. If this happens, we'll call it the return of the fish. Because they're fishy, or whatever. Houston, you'll work on it. You'll work it. Reeling in the fishy game there. Next up, number 1, Alabama -28 at LSU. We don't know. This one's COVID optional, so we don't really know. And we're assuming that LSU won't be able to play that game, so we're going to pass on that one. Next one, Arkansas at number 6, Florida. Number 6, Florida. I've got them -17.5. Florida with a 90.3% chance to win. Now, we had a trend of transfer quarterbacks getting revenge. Does that trend continue with this game?
What's the line on that?
17.5, Alan.
I'm going to say yes. This does play into it. Arkansas is not getting enough credit for how improved they've been. Kendall Briles, Barry Odom, 2 outstanding coordinators. Felipe Franks has actually flipped on the switch and actually looks like a competent quarterback. And then on top of that, they've got a semblance of a more complete offense and a decent defense, or a more structured defense. I'm not sure that they're able to win, but I think Florida's going to be in for a fight coming off a big win, big momentum swinging win over Georgia. This isn't your daddy's Arkansas team where they're just going to line up with Darren McFadden and try to run Wildcat the whole time. They're going to try to sling the ball around the yard. And I think they're going to be able to do that against the Florida defense that is still not that great. So I'm going to say Florida does win, but it's going to be a lot closer than the spread. So I'm picking Arkansas on the spread.
Yeah, I'm rolling with Houston here. I think it scares me a little bit, though, because Florida, man, they look really good, scoring all over the Georgia defense, a depleted Georgia defense. We know that. But Arkansas's looked really good this year. They've exceeded expectations by far. And I think coming off a big win, against Georgia, that Florida's going to kind of come back down to earth. I'm taking Arkansas.
I got to go with Arkansas as well because James in chat says Arkansas, baby. They have been money for him this year. If they've been money for James, they'll be money for me, I'm sure. So thank you, James, for getting in with your comments on that game. And so that's a lock there for all of us. We're going to pick all to Arkansas. I got that one down. 3 games left to go, fellas. We're in the final stretch. Thank you so much for joining us, Facebook and YouTube. And if you're listening to us after the fact over on our podcast, thank you so much. Number 11, Oregon, -9 at Washington State. I mean, it's hard for me to even pick any of these Pac-12 games. I don't know anything.
Yeah.
Houston, I stay up late to do homework and watch wrestling. I don't stay up late to watch Oregon.
Oh, buddy, you're missing out. I applied to Oregon simply because the uniforms. I wanted to go there, man. That was when I've been watching them since the days of Joey Harrington. Love the Ducks. Love Eugene. Love Autzen, even though I don't know if the game's in Autzen or not. Give me the Ducks. They're covering. They're the only chance the Pac-12 gets into the playoff this year. Give me the Ducks.
Yeah, I wanted my brain tells me to go with Oregon on this one. I mean, we picked them as kind of a sleeper to possibly make the playoffs with that defense. But the fact of the matter is, I just don't have enough plus the points here picking against the spread. So I'm going to have to take Washington State plus the points. The only ones I have so far are BC plus the points and Miami plus the points. I can't just pick 2. I got to find one somewhere. So why not the Pac-12?
I mean, they've only played, 2 games? No, 1 game this season so far. Both teams seem to be able to sling it, and they both actually have a pretty well-rounded offense in general, but both seem to be giving up a ton of yards on defense as well. You got over 400 yards given up on defense for both, but almost 500 taken on offense for both as well. To me, and it is a home game for Washington in Martin Stadium at 7 p.m. Night game, Martin Stadium. I don't know anything about it, but I'm going to go with Washington State here and give me the points. Anytime you don't know a team that well, I feel better picking the points, and that's in that case. All right, next up is number 13, Wisconsin, -3.5 at Michigan. Headed over there to play the Wolverines. Wolverines 1-2 after starting off strong the first game. They've lost 2. They've lost 2 in a row now to teams that weren't expected to lose to heading into the season. Wisconsin has only played 1 game, COVID issues, but they beat Illinois 45-7. It seems as if Michigan does not have a defense, giving up over 400 yards per game on defense, while Wisconsin, they only have 1 game, but so it's kind of hard to say, but 45-7 is not too bad to start out your 1 game. This one, again, is at Michigan Stadium, and you know what? I hate Michigan, so I am going for Wisconsin to cover 3.5.
I'm actually going to do the same, especially if Graham Mertz. I don't think he is going to be back for this game, but if he is, I'm definitely picking Wisconsin. I know that if he's not, they're going to lean behind that run game. Michigan's not going to be able to stop him. And then we hear the rumblings of if Jim Harbaugh survives into the next week.
I agree. I'm going with Wisconsin to cover as well. Forget Michigan.
And the last one up, this is a COVID replacement, as Houston likes to say. A COVID replacement for our LSU-Alabama game in case they don't play that game. If they do play that game, let me just ask, if they do play, does Alabama beat LSU by 28 or more than 28? I say yes.
Yes.
I say no.
You got to give me a reason on this one.
It's LSU. LSU figures out ways. It doesn't matter how bad or good they are. It's always a closer game. Even the year when when Tua took over in 2018, it wasn't good. It wasn't ugly, or it was ugly on the scoreboard. But Alabama was averaging, I believe, like 51 points a game. LSU held them to 29. I feel like LSU is going to find a way to keep it close. I don't think they win, but I think they'd be able to keep it close.
All right, and the last game of the night, South Carolina. Ugh, that team is traveling to Ole Miss. This is our COVID replacement game, -11.5 right now on the spread, 11.5. South Carolina 2-4 with losses to number 7 Texas A&M and away game to LSU, as well as Florida, and I don't have the top 5 games. I don't know the other game they lost, but Ole Miss is 2-4 as well. But like I said, Ole Miss has 541 yards on offense per game, scoring 38 points per game. And South Carolina on average is scoring 24 points per game with 340 yards. But Ole Miss also has a terrible defense. So Houston, I'll get your thoughts.
This is the Todd Ellis special of the week. Are you ready for Carolina football? Just getting you ready and primed, because you know what's going to happen? Ole Miss is going to cover. This is going to look a lot like the 2011 Orange Bowl. Give me Ole Miss to cover.
Yeah, look, hey, if Kevin Harris or Shi Smith are ever going to get loose, it's against this Ole Miss defense. They're absolutely atrocious. But I think South Carolina, it's a mental thing right now. I think they're decimated. They're a dumpster fire. They know it. They're going down with the ship. Ole Miss covers.
Well, I'm not picking South Carolina, so you can just go ahead and chalk that up for me, Ole Miss as well. Let's get in the chat, and that's the end of our picks against the spread. We made it. We went really pretty fast on that one, guys. I'm really proud of you guys for that. Maybe we found a new flow on this picks against the spread, because we don't want to do like 30 minutes of picks against the spread. But again, thank you so much. We're not able to get all the games. We do ACC games, and then we pick 5 games that are non-ACC that we think that you will want to hear from. We got some people saying, or James is asking, Coastal Carolina. They are the second best team in the state, but we didn't pick them. Maybe we should start throwing them on there to get them some love as well. But Al, you got anything over on Facebook, or Houston, got anything on Facebook before we let the crowd go for the night?
I don't have anything on Facebook. My Facebook comments keep stopping midstream. I keep having to reload the page and try to catch a couple. So I'm sorry if I haven't replied to you on Facebook tonight. Hadn't been active. It's been kind of messing with the comments tonight. So I got nothing over here. But we did have a pretty good set of comments going on until, Casey Cregan was in, Al Kuhn was in, Bill Lanham was in as well, so from Four Paws. So we had a lot of good chat going on. I just missed most of it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I got in, looked at it's kind of a similar story there, but shout out to Casey Cregan and also to Seldom Years Reserves and the boys at Chop and Beef. Shout out to them. Thanks for having me on the other night for my little Notre Dame spiel. So always glad when Casey Cregan's able to join.
Yeah, we really appreciate them, and they share our stuff. We try to share their stuff as well. And so thanks, guys, over there, Seldom Used Reserves. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, again, I don't like to beg, but I will beg. I'm not above it. Make sure you like the video. That helps it get out there into the search feed. Make sure you share it with a friend if you can. If you want to send it to them on an email or in a text message, or put it on Reddit. Actually, I threw the live video over on Reddit. If you haven't been over to Clemson Tigers Reddit page, go over there and give us an upvote over there. We'd really appreciate it as well. And then if you're on Facebook and you follow us, make sure you follow us there and like the video, share the video as anywhere you think, and send it to a friend in a message board or whatever. We really appreciate the love and support. And we will see you next week. We don't have a Clemson game this weekend to talk about, so we're going to have to talk more about college football. So hope you're ready. Hope you enjoy our speak about college football. But again, for myself, Morgan, and the producer, graphics guy, host, and Alan, the analyst, expert, director of operations, and Houston, the party planning committee chair extraordinaire.
Thank you very much.
We really appreciate it. And as always, Tiger fans, we'll see you at the top of the hill.